If the floodwaters rise, if the virus spreads, if the bombs go off, these men are ready. 4 Marines who know how to survive. Joel Stevens.
I was actually there on 9/11. I saw how society broke down very quickly.
Mark Puhali.
In the Marine Corps, we're taught to thrive in chaos and operate in a chaotic environment.
Mike Kozaliski.
I have a lot of ground combat experience. Definitely saw a lot of death. You never have your guard down.
And Jimmy Kimball.
You have to understand being self-reliant or you're in trouble.
Their headquarters, Forge Survival Supply. Come crisis or catastrophe, their technique, improvisation. They know that in an emergency, high tech is high risk. Their mission, using the stuff on hand and a fighting spirit. They teach, then test their clients how to survive. Next, an education in improvised weapons.
We gotta get to the ambush site.
Secrets to surviving in post-apocalyptic New York. A young family learns how to bug out.
And you know it's time to move. Those windows are a potential threat. These alleyways are a potential threat.
And a crash course in the killer instinct. From its perch in the Rocky Mountains, Joel Stevens runs Forge Survival Supply. They have survivalist and prepper clients all around the country, including New York. Densely populated, dependent on the power grid, and with only a few ways in and out, Manhattan is a survivalist nightmare.
God, I would not want to get trapped here.
Trapped here and
You are dead.
Today, Mark and Jimmy are in the Big Apple to meet 2 new clients, Jay and Daniel, who are worried about how to get out of New York in an emergency.
One of the most aggressive, busy cities in the world.
There's going to be complete chaos, anarchy.
You got to think about how many people are going to be flooding down these stairwells into the street, people coming out of the subways. I mean, there's going to be cars stuck on the street. This is New York, man. Anything goes, right?
Jay and Daniel have been living in Manhattan for 10 years, but recent events have them scared.
We were here in the blackout, the hurricane last summer, and I thought we live in Manhattan, which is an island, and if we needed to get out, not sure how that would happen.
Have you prepared in any way?
At the last hurricane, I bought 12 gallons of water, which is now in our closet.
Great. What about feeding the dog?
If you're trying to get out covered and concealed, if the dog makes noise, it can compromise you. Yeah, it's things to think about. Are you going to stay? Are you going to get out of Dodge?
Right.
Are you going to stay held up for a week, a month? Okay. 12 gallons will only go so far.
And when your neighbors are beating down your door for your water because they don't have any, and they know you have 12 gallons of it.
Or
Things
more.
I've never thought of.
Oh, it's going to get scary quick.
Yeah.
The first step, what do Jay and Daniel have on hand to defend themselves if they were attacked in their apartment?
All the glassware. You might have to break up the glasses in case you need to use it as weapons and shrapnel. Bottle openers. This is a great thing to punch somebody with. I mean, there's a lot of things that you need to think about.
This saran wrap and foil for packaging stuff.
Right.
Any wounds, you want to stop the bleeding, don't leave a trail.
But you think people are just going to freak out and start
Absolutely.
killing each other and stuff?
All this stuff is valuable stuff that people don't ever think about in their homes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if someone's trying to harm you, the dog, Jay, you are going to react in a much different manner than you ever thought about.
It's clear the novice preppers don't get it, and Jimmy isn't optimistic.
We've got to get them toughened up.
We got to get them hard and think in combat mindset.
Well, this isn't going to be easy.
While Jimmy and Mark are in New York, Joel and Mike are at the store in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. This is where clients who want to prepare for apocalyptic scenarios or preppers come to buy gear and get advice on everything from water purification to improvised weaponry.
Good to meet you too.
Theo Wilson is a prepper who is worried that nature might turn against mankind.
A lot of people think that doomsday is about what human beings will do, but the fact is that we got this big mother nature here that can do anything she wants to at any time. So you need to be ready the best that you can.
Theo is worried about how he'll survive natural disasters, ranging from cataclysmic volcanoes to killer blizzards.
I'm from the Denver area, and the vulnerability of urban living. And I did a little looking around, and I realized it's about time for me to get back to nature.
No matter what happens, Theo wants to be self-reliant in every way, including weapons for security and hunting. and he's come to Forge Survival for help.
We've got a few ideas of improvised weapons that we wanted to go over with you.
One of the things we're going to start off with is stuff that is always available in an urban environment that you could use.
Yes. It's weapons of opportunity. It's just a matter of thinking about putting a couple things together. So you got this paper, gives you some good strength here on the end. Put one of the scissors in there like this. It's very simple. It's a matter of just putting a couple of implements that you've got easily accessible together. And again, you know somebody's coming in the door or in your office, right there. You got the weapon. You're coming down with it. So,
That works.
all right. So, what do we all have at our house? We've got some tape, whether it's any kind of tape, a basic kitchen knife, and your broom handle. We'll grab the tape and let's wrap it around.
That is phenomenal. It's so simple, and nobody wants to stand in front of that.
The intimidation factor. The intimidation factor.
I mean, it's intimidating that you thought about it.
So, Theo, not only can you use this as a spear-type weapon, but you can also brace this into the ground. And one of the other things we thought of was, we could put some type of 550 cord to the end of this and use this as a fishing-type weapon or a hunting-type weapon where you could throw it and actually bring it back to you.
That is thinking. That is good survival thinking. Period.
Mike and Joel can see that Theo is motivated. They plan to teach him how to improve his prepping and better defend himself. Back in New York City, Mark and Jimmy are getting Daniel and Jay outfitted at a sporting goods store for their bug out.
We need to get some protective gear. Good on the noggin.
Where some see sporting goods, Mark and Jimmy see weapons.
Oh, yes.
Bingo. This will take somebody down. Nice hard maple.
We should get black ones.
Yep. Old school mace.
Yeah.
To be certain they're doing everything they can for Daniel and Jay, Mark calls Joel, their boss, back at Forge Survival Supply.
Hey, Joel, it's Mark. What's up, dude? We got our hands full with these two guys.
Are they going to survive or not?
They have the motivation to do the right thing, but they're going to need our guidance. One guy's overweight. He's strong as an ox, but his endurance needs to definitely increase. And then his partner is in relatively good shape and aerobically fit. But
We're just going to try to get them physically ready.
Hey, why don't you guys run them through their paces and make it hard? Do a practice run and see how they do.
we're going to show up, knock on the door, tell them they have a 20-minute drop-dead time to be out of the house and get ready to bug out.
All right, sounds good, guys.
All right. Out of here. For our initial bug out, we're going to go to the water.
How are they going to carry their load, get to the water, deploy a raft, and have the water take them where they need to go?
We're going to take Danny and Jay into the park so they can use some cover and concealment with the vegetation, the trees, etc. Then we're going to move them north, picking up Morningside Park. They're going to continue west until they hit the water and then launch the raft into the water.
Can't they cross the East River, then go east?
The currents in the East River is tons of chop, whirlpools. It's a much more treacherous body of water compared to the Hudson. Based on the tides, we'll either take them straight across to Jersey, we'll go south to Governor's Island. Those are our two options once they're in the water.
Let's make some weapons.
As always, the Forge crew looks to DIY solutions for their customers.
It's good. That looks great. This looks mean. That is a bad day. Let's get out of here. All right, show these kids how to use this stuff.
Surviving in a post-apocalyptic New York could be a challenge for anyone. But the Forge team wants Daniel and Jay to change how they think. The first step, teaching them hand-to-hand combat.
They're going to have to step outside of themselves, and they're going to have to learn how to be aggressive and understand what it means to take care of business when it comes down to it.
Combat mindset at all times.
Okay.
From this day forward, especially when you're executing your bug out plan. Constant awareness. We want to try to create some of that today. And we're going to get aggressive.
Okay.
How do you think I'm going to come after you to steal your pack? Am I going to come after you kind of half-ass, or am I going to come after you and attack you?
That's right.
Right?
Best thing ever, anybody approaches you, you want to keep your hands up. One hand forward, whichever your dominant hand. So one hand forward, one hand back. This will allow you to keep distance, but also keep people out of your personal space. Okay? So you want to keep your arms bent. You want to keep a frame. This is called keeping a frame. Now, don't crash into me. You have this, you can control 300-pound man just by creating a bridge like this.
I don't weigh 300 pounds.
This would be, I don't. So this would be knee strikes. Right in the choke. 3 seconds, that's all it takes. Basic strike points you guys want to focus on. Soft targets, eyes, jugular and carotid, okay? You want to go for groin, obviously. You throw off their body rhythm, it's easier to break somebody down. Once you strike, you're going to create someone's head up, their nose might be bloody. You want to end it.
So strike, strike. Grab the back of the head. Come here. Scissors across the carotids. Drive the knee. Drive the knee. Drive the knee. And then just throw them away.
Okay.
Okay? Strike. You've got my head down? Nope. Don't bear hug. One hand here. Other hand on top. Now pull me down. There you go. And just turn your thumbs. There you go. So we'll do a choke again. Okay, good. 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 Okay. Just basic techniques to escape, get rid of your assailant, and then move on and assess.
All right.
Okay?
Jay is surprised at Daniel's aggressiveness.
I've never seen him do anything like this before. I've never seen him be this physical against somebody. Makes me a little afraid.
Mark and Jimmy are not satisfied with the level of aggression either man is showing. Their plan to amp it up, a competition. In New York City, Mark and Jimmy put their clients to a test.
You learned some techniques from us, but now it's time for you to work on each other.
To strengthen their combat mindset, the team stages a match between Jay and Daniel.
You need to be the aggressor, and then you need to be the defender. Break them down. There it is. No, there it is. Now control the head down. See? Head's in a bad position. There it is, to the front. Don't grab his arms. Yep, just throw him down. You try to re-attack. Perfect.
So being physically aggressive isn't something I really like, but it's something I feel with the training that I got from them that I can do.
Next time we meet, we're going to put you through something more. The Bug Out Challenge. Getting out of Manhattan.
All right.
Back in Colorado, Joel and Mike are honing Theo's combat instincts, training him with improvised weapons. Many preppers believe that in the post-apocalyptic world, bullets will be scarce.
All right, so we want to teach you to be able to effectively employ this weapon.
Yeah.
What you're imagining is a hole right here, and you're going to try to put it right through there.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and that's how you're going to be throwing it.
All
It's the traditional javelin throw. Ooh, nice shot.
The Forge team recommends a sling to clients as a highly effective improvised weapon.
You kind of wrap the rock around it. Yeah. And then this is your trigger. Okay? So right here, as you throw it, you're going to release, and that's what's going to let it go.
Easy to create and deadly in skilled hands, they are used around the world.
I will strike you down, David. Ooh. Come on, little fella. Show us what you got.
All right. Oh. See that? It was the right way.
Yeah, but your first rotation was too slow.
Yeah,
So
it was too
go
slow.
like this
Sit down.
and get it going and then kind of whip into it.
I got a better feeling about this one.
You got it in there. All right. All right, let's see what we got. 1, 2.
Oh!
God dang.
Basically, just come back and you slash all the way through it.
Yeah.
Bring it all the way around to
Yeah.
slash through, and then you can also follow over the jab right there.
Now back and forth, rock it, and then go into a full rotation.
Oh, I got it. Oh.
I like Mike. He's a good guy because you get the feeling that this guy's actually been there, you know. I believe he's seen combat, and so he knows what it is to actually be in a situation when your adrenaline's pumping. All right. Here we go.
There you
Nice.
go. Nice.
Throw.
Almost. Okay, right? Slash like that.
There you go. That's
There you
it.
go.
That's
Cool.
it.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Nice shot. Oh, nice one.
Take it.
You mean? Yeah, that's it.
1, 2.
There
Nice
you go.
one.
Nice.
Perfect. Good job.
Each time you got more aggressive with it, more comfortable with it, it
Yeah.
takes those rehearsals, the practice. You just cutting them and back, cutting them and back.
Yeah. You see how aggression carried the day. When you got aggressive with that thing, you
Yeah.
really got more penetration, more force, and more killing blows.
I have a lot of faith in that weapon that they could do the job.
Good deal.
I have a lot of faith in you that you could get out of a sticky situation.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Handle your business.
If you don't train full out, then you're not going to be able to actually practice full out. So I could put my mind there. Let's go. You know, life or death. Feel good.
Back in New York, Jimmy and Mark have devised a bug-out plan for Daniel and Jay. But whether the two would-be preppers can execute it is another question.
They have to move quickly, so we're going to force them to pack their bags, get to the water. We're going to give them 30 minutes to do it all.
Mental toughness, physical toughness, and what it takes to really execute their plans.
Go, boys. Gotta go. You're down to 3 minutes.
You are evacing out of here.
Now, move.
Grab your, let's go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. You're done. Let's go. Here we go.
Elevator's not working. Take the stairs.
All right.
Secure that bug out bag when you get outside so you don't lose your gear. Let's go.
Faster. Outside.
Now, Jay, you're athletic, and let's see how athletic you are under a load.
Are we actually running?
Okay, but we need to get to the park into some cover.
You can move as fast as or slow as man, but I'm going to be on you.
Now, be looking ahead. Where can obvious threats be?
Right.
Threats from the rooftops. Look out.
All clear is always a good word to use.
Yeah, all clear.
As Daniel and Jay move through Central Park, they see the landscape with new eyes.
Checking in, staying spread out. You're nice and dispersed. You're checking potential threat areas. This is nice and open, but you want to see what's going on.
Okay, got it.
Spread out some more. Stay nice and staggered. You want to also see what's going on in the street if you can. See if there's any chaos. Keep moving.
It's scary. I feel panicked. I don't feel like I have any of my wits about me. I'm not thinking. I'm just listening. But if it's just us, like I'm going to have to have this voice in my head and be thinking about this stuff.
Let's go. Get across. Get through the tunnel. Let's go.
Jay and Daniel have been doing better than Jimmy expected, so Jimmy ups the ante. Back in New York City, Mark and Jimmy are running the novice preppers through their bug-out plan.
We're going to have a surprise for them so they can use their hand-to-hand skills that we taught them yesterday.
Let's go. Get across. Get through the tunnel. Let's go.
Jimmy has a pop quiz waiting for Daniel and Jay in the tunnel.
Watch for security. Go to that side.
All right, guys, hold up. We're going to talk about what just happened.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
You were ready to throw the jab. You let him get too close to your body, though.
All right.
But he almost uncorked that bat. You would have hit him. Okay?
All right.
But you did a great job. I like the fire, man. I'm just totally shocked. I have to admit, I've never seen anybody get that quickly ready to cock back with a bat. And you were going to use it as a jabbing weapon. That's exactly what you do. You guys assess the threat. Okay?
Daniel and Jay passed their test with flying colors, but more challenges lie ahead. Back in Colorado, it's time to put some of Theo's newly learned skills and improvised weapons to a test.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, get mean.
The question is, does Theo have the killer instinct?
How do you use the terrain to defend your area?
This would be a perfect ambush site. These rocks are perfect for making your enemy go where you want them to go, or food, if you want deer to go into a certain spot, or elk.
Right. All right.
As the enemy approaches, we would block them into position and then ambush them from a high position.
You've got a small pit here for a fire trench that is going to make either the enemy or the game stop.
Why don't we go up top and put some rocks up there and kind of prep the ambush site, so to speak.
You want to make sure that you've come up here, you've identified where the areas that you're going to be shooting or throwing. You can throw the spear, you can use some type of other improvised weapon. You've got your ammunition pre-positioned up here, and it's a matter of just playing it over and over again. Because think about it as far as what's over you, what's to your left and right that could impede you or affect your ability to actually hit the target.
Okay.
So we probably ought to knock back some of these branches. Here, watch yourself.
For Theo's next exercise, Mike uses the most basic of weapons, rocks.
Okay, Theo, so as you can see from up here, we've got good view, good vision of our impact area.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and grab one of those and launch it and get a feel for it. There you go. Now, how effective do you think that would be?
I think that would be good. These rocks weigh a good 15, 20 pounds.
Yeah, see if you can hit that one. There you go.
If it was to send on somebody, that thing's done.
You're picking up the concept. That's the most important thing. Using the terrain as an improvised weapon. So that's in this environment. If you're looking from a second or third story window in an urban environment, it's going to be able to ward off an angry mob, a crowd, someone who knows that they're trying to come into your space.
All right, Theo. There's an angry mob behind us. We got to get to the ambush site.
Let's go. Get up there. Get up there. Move. Move. Come on.
Now, Joel and Mike have set up a test to see if Theo has what it takes to protect himself. Some rocks and a controlled fire are his only defense.
You want it? Hold on. Come get it. Nobody is taking my stuff.
It has to come from right here before anything else can happen. You have to know, are you willing to survive? Are you going to lay down and cower and die?
That fire line was crazy. It lit up way more powerful than I thought it would. I mean, that was a fire. Like, that was a fire. And so, I mean, if I were on the receiving end of that, I would be shocked for just long enough. I believe it would work because there's nothing like seeing that happen for real. And then, bam, you take care of your business. The more prepared you are, the less you have to worry about your wits coming up with something on the spot. You already got it laid out.
Theo has passed his first test and is on his way to becoming a serious prepper.
When that flame went off, Theo said to me, all I need is that split second.
The fact is, this is preparedness. It's doomsday preparedness. And so you got to take a step forward and be proactive in your own defense. It's your life, you know?
Reaching the west side of Manhattan, Daniel and Jay are closing in on their goal, the Hudson River. It's time to bug out.
So after that long movement through the parks, now we're going to move to the water and test their skills again.
Water is going to be real difficult. It'd be difficult for anybody that's not under duress, not under pressure, and not physically exhausted. We'll see how they do.
All right, guys, let's go. You got a minute to get your gear out. It looks like there's some people forming up under the bridge. Let's go. We got to hurry up and get out of here. Gear down, packs off.
Watch, makes it.
Entering the raft can seem very simple, but it can prove to be a very dangerous point in the voyage.
Okay, if you guys can't get this done, you are dead.
You're dead or you're going to be swimming.
Daniel and Jay are at a critical point in their Manhattan bug out.
Close it off. All right.
They need to make a smooth passage onto water.
Now, secure that. Make sure that you keep your center of gravity low. Okay, as you enter, you can either lower in forward or you can lower in backwards. Get to your knees. This will keep your center of gravity low in the boat. Okay.
The current on the Hudson can be fast and dangerous. Mark and Jimmy aren't sure how the novice preppers will do.
Okay. Sorry, honey. Now get deployed.
Now get rolling.
Push off, push off, push off. All right. In concert. Watch. There you go.
Escape from Manhattan. Good, guys.
Very good. Very good. Look at you guys cruising. I think they're going to make it. I think they're going to do all right.
For Jimmy and Mark, it's the end of a job well done. They're ready to give their novice students high marks before they return to Colorado. Daniel and Jay have discovered a part of themselves they didn't know they had.
So honestly, it's like a paradigm shift for me. I don't have to wonder what would happen. This is what we would do if something like this happened.
Definitely adrenaline was going through my veins, and I was in attack mode myself.
At the Ford store, a new prepper is arriving.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, man?
Whoa.
Don't worry, it's clear.
All right, let me see it real quick.
No problems.
He was a little put off at first walking in with the AR-15, but, you know, he just wanted to know if I was being safe with it.
Billy wants to hone his gun skills and learn how to live off the grid and provide food and shelter for his family in a post-apocalyptic world.
My wife and I mostly focus on the possibility of economic collapse. If we happen to see a second depression, Great Depression, that's something we want to be prepared for.
He grew up in the city, grew up in PG County right outside of D.C. That's a tough urban area.
So we moved out here just to have a better life for our daughter.
Right.
Not have her deal with the stuff that we did growing up.
Talk to me a little bit about what you're trying to do.
You know, the next big step is food storage and how do we eventually live off the grid.
So you're saying that you want to be off the grid, get your family prepared. You've moved into a safer location. You've secured some firearms for protection. You don't have food. You don't have water.
Right, yeah.
You know, you have a wife and a child.
Got a long way to go.
You need to step up and really get into this.
Billy has big ideas and a thirst for knowledge, but Joel isn't too impressed with Billy's actual readiness.
My first impression of Billy was he's a little bit of a mall ninja. guy that has a lot of knowledge in his head, seen a lot of YouTube videos, read a lot of books, maybe some comic books, but didn't have a lot of practical application. That was pretty nice.
I wanted to get some optics on here. This is my first AR and haven't had a chance to get this sighted in.
Okay.
But Joel doesn't want to sell Billy a high-tech scope until he knows how to use the iron sights, the built-in metal sighting device on top of the rifle.
So you haven't shot this yet? You just got
No,
this?
I haven't put any rounds through it yet.
You always want to be able to fall back in your iron sights. So the very first thing we need to do is do what's called a BZO, or battle sight zero.
Okay.
So that's basically just sighting it in so that you can hit something at 25 yards out to 100 yards.
That's what I'm looking for.
To give Billy his first lesson in using a rifle properly, the team takes him to a deserted site in the mountains. Mark, the weapons specialist, steps in to show Billy the optimum place to put his eye and place his body. First, he needs to set what people who know guns call battle sight zero.
A lot of people, they go to the gun store and they're like, oh man, I'm going to get this high-speed, awesome $2,000 weapon, these big optics, and they go and they try to shoot it, and they're not hitting the target. Okay, so the first thing you always want to do is you always want to zero the weapon. Now, your zero is probably going to be different for Melody's.
No kidding.
Yeah, based on our body, how we look over the weapon, how we have the weapon in our shoulder.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're going to shoot 3 rounds. Go check our target, see if we have to make any adjustments to the weapon, fire 3 rounds again, make any necessary adjustments, and then we're going to fire 4 rounds. We should have a 0 by that point.
Makes sense.
Safety rules when we're handling the weapon: muzzle awareness at all times, keep the weapon pointed down range.
Yep, I got you.
Prone position, prone, you're laying down. Aim center mass on that target. Focus on the front sight tip.
Yep.
Front sight tip is centered in your rear sight. Pull the charging handle completely to the rear, a couple deep breaths, and when you're ready, you may commence firing. Okay, go ahead and put the weapon on safe. Pull the magazine out of the weapon, pull the bolt to the rear, lock it.
A lot of pressure when everybody's watching me. Let's hope I hit the boxes at all.
It's a tight group.
There's a group.
Look at that.
You're just off target.
It's great. It's great. Good job.
That's a good group. We just got to adjust you. So we're going to have to move you to the right, and we're going to have to move you down. So in this case, we want to bring the rounds down. So we're going to raise the front sight post up. Now we're going to move the rear elevation knob to bring the rounds to the right, which is actually going to move this to the left.
It's like bowling.
It is. All right, you're set?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I brought you down too much, and I didn't bring you over enough. Better grouping right here with these 2 rounds. Okay. This one's a little bit off. Okay. So I brought you down a little bit too much, and we need to move you over some more. Okay. Now you're going to have 4 rounds for this string of fire.
Okay.
All right, looks like we got you in there.
Nice.
It was good shooting, good group.
Thank you.
For having never shot your weapon before, you maintained a decent group. With more practice, you can get that group tighter and tighter and tighter.
Awesome.
If you'll look downrange, we got a little watermelon set up for you.
Look at that.
All right, Billy, so this is the leader of the mob, coming to get you, coming to get your wife, take your daughter, take your gear. What are you going to do about it?
I'm going to take him out.
They're coming for you. Firing ready. One shot, one kill.
This was really my first experience with rifles. I don't know if I want to call it beginner's luck, but let's see where it goes.
Billy is learning his weapon, but that's just the beginning. Showing him and his family survival tactics comes next. Before Billy receives his next lesson, a new client with big ideas of his own arrives at the store.
I'm 25 years old. If it hits the fan, I will be one of the few that survive. I'm 25 years old. If it hits the fan, I will be one of the few that survive.
Tyler Scrabel believes he's prepped and ready to survive an apocalyptic event. He's come to the forge to see if there's anything more for him to learn. Jimmy starts by going through his bug-out vehicle and gear.
Hey, sir.
Got it.
They can hear you coming from miles away with that. Watch your head.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So let's look at this thing. Let's break it down. Now, you can pull everything apart because it's your rig and you have it set up the way you want exteriorly looking at it. Obviously, compass, whistle, noisy water bottle.
Conceptual thing is everything needs to be tight. So when you move, it moves with you. You don't want to have your backpack loose and your sleeping bag and this stuff loose. So that's a conceptual thing we'll have to fix. So let's open it up and see what you got.
Right.
Oh, this is tactical.
Yeah.
Is this a blue bunny or? I almost wonder how you put that on. How do you bounce around like a little animal?
That's the question. I go camping, and this is my outdoor stuff. So
Well, let's see.
For my dry stuff there. It's a pair of sweatpants and a fleece there.
Okay. Is it cotton?
It is cotton.
All right, Jimmy, what do you think about cotton?
So cotton, worst thing in the world. When it gets wet, it's going to keep you cold. Really tough to dry. We're going to look towards wools, multi-layers. They dry very quickly, hide the body odors.
Okay. And this in here, I got, these are my medical supplies. I have a bunch of different pills that I take with me.
This guy likes to party.
I have ibuprofen in there, Tylenol.
It needs to be labeled and also rotated. You need to know when the stuff expires.
And the other thing is the Ziploc bags are not going to keep them fresh. You get a little drop of water in there, and every pill you have in there is done. Absolutely lose all their value.
Okay.
While Tyler thinks he's ready for anything, the team is unimpressed.
All right, what else do we have?
Just the Flint stick.
Ty's gear is so weak. Powder blue sweat gear for camping? Maybe. But when it hits the fan, he's the first one to die.
All right. Now, keep this in mind, is that you got a lot of straps and stuff. All this stuff is loose and not tied down tight. Something you want to always keep in mind is that things need to be tightly rolled. Even if this strap is not being used, you roll it up, put a little bit of black tape on it. It's nice and tight and neat. Those small things go a long way when this is all you're carrying.
All right, so I get a chance to redeem myself.
Why don't you take that out to the car, bring those couple of weapons in, and we'll talk about that next.
Further up the mountain, 9,100 feet high, Billy and his wife are getting another reality check. Joel's taken him to see what his dream of an off-the-grid life is like in practice. This will help the new preppers determine if they're cut out for an off-the-grid lifestyle.
So, Scott, these guys want to live off the grid. They come from kind of an urban setting. I told them about you and your situation.
All right, fantastic. You guys want to take a tour?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we split all our own wood. That's how we heat our home in the wintertime.
How much wood do you need to get through the winter?
The amount that I can stack here only lasts me 3 weeks.
Wow.
You constantly have to be working, cutting and splitting firewood, constantly working on the buildings, improving the fences, improving the situations for my livestock so that other animals and predators can't get in.
It's like a second job. You work 40 hours a week at your regular job. You come home here, you get another 40, 50 hours of work to do on this property.
Oh, I could work here full-time, all the time, and still have plenty of work to do. Have you guys ever lived in the mountains? Or?
No, definitely not. Always been pretty urban/suburban.
We moved out here about 12 years ago. We lived in a cabin for about 2 years to see if we'd really like it. A lot of people come up here and buy a place right away and pretty blown away by the winters we get.
Oh, yeah.
8 months of winter, you got to be willing to deal with that.
Adapt, adjust, for sure.
As far as the alpacas, we've got 3 llamas, 2 alpacas. I raise those for packing into the backcountry. In an emergency situation, you have hundreds of pounds of meat. We raise chickens. We've got 14 chickens. We'll get 14 eggs a day. All right, watch your step.
It's pretty hot. It's tropical.
So right now it's 95 degrees in here. So as you can see, we've got a lot of things in progress. One of the issues we have at 9,000 feet is a short growing season. So the greenhouse is the only way to grow. And we have an automatic watering system. My goal is to be self-reliant, self-sufficient. I'm looking to provide as much as I can for my family based on the property that I have. Living off the grid and up here, you're 10 miles at least from the nearest emergency response vehicle.
You basically are the first responder.
Yeah.
So if something happens, you're the first guy on the scene. You have no paramedics, no nothing. You have to be the paramedic.
I've read plenty of books on it, but never had any hands-on training. So that's a very valid point.
Yeah.
Being kind of, I guess, stuck up here,
right.
When things go down.
For Billy, it's an eye-opening experience. Providing food and shelter off the grid is far more difficult and involves more skill and risk than he had imagined.
Up here, the kind of weather we get, I've gotten 8 feet of snow in 3 days.
Wow.
And when that happens, I was snowed in for 6 days.
A minivan?
Not going to make it.
It's not going to cut it.
A lot of work to do, man. A lot of work to do. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually still pretty excited about it. It seems like you're pretty happy with what you got at this point. So
I definitely am, but it's taken over 10 years for me to get to this point. It takes a little time.
It's been an honor. You definitely opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't know about. So I really appreciate that. You're a man of the land.
Scott's place, it was amazing. That's really where we want to be, and I actually hope to talk to him more about what he's doing and how we can get there.
Since Billy and his wife still live in an urban environment, Joel takes them to Central City, a nearby town, to simulate an emergency bug-out.
This is Armageddon, so people are going to be assaulting you. They're going to be wanting to steal your stuff. So have that mindset as we go into it. You're going to be encountering threats here.
Hang back, Melody. Hang back.
In Central City, Colorado, an old mountain mining town, Billy White is getting a taste of what it would be like to get his family out of an urban environment safely.
Billy and Melody, we talked about doing some urban scenarios, because when you guys are in an Armageddon situation, you're going to have to transition from where you live in an urban area up to the mountains.
Some of the things we've done in the military, we've done a terrain walk, okay, like in the woods. Today we're just going to do an urban terrain walk, and talk about some of the threats you could possibly encounter getting out of Dodge, okay?
Joel knows that the picturesque mountain town would look very different in an Armageddon situation.
This is Armageddon, so people are going to be assaulting you. They're going to be wanting to steal your stuff. So have that mindset as we go into it. You're going to be encountering threats here.
Okay.
So go ahead and spread out.
She's going to be on the right.
She's going to be on the right, but you're going to be
left,
behind
but
Billy.
you're taking the rear.
And we're going to be staggered.
Okay.
So you can spread out some.
Okay.
Mark provides Billy and Melody with potentially life-saving tips for urban escape in the event that rule of law has broken down.
You're going to cover her side.
Right.
Every 3 to 5 steps, you're checking your six. You're checking your rear to make sure no one's coming up on you. Now remember, right now you guys are kind of walking online.
Right.
But you want to be staggered, and you want to have what I like to call implicit communication. You could get a simple nod, and then Mel, you're going to move up, you're going to cover his side. Those windows are a potential threat. These alleyways are a potential threat. Every corner, every door, someone could be in there. So you still want to spread out some more.
Okay.
These drains, they could be booby-trapped. There could be a grenade in there. There could be some guy in there trying to get you. Remember, we're getting out of Dodge. We're getting to our homestead location in the mountains.
Right.
If someone's chasing you, speed offers security. You don't want to get too close to the buildings if someone shoots at the building. Ricochets. So you want to be about 4 to 6 feet away from the side of the building.
Putting Billy and Melody through this drill helps them visualize the real dangers they'd face escaping in an emergency.
Good job, guys.
If this was a real scenario, thinking about all those threats, it's really kind of mind-blowing.
What's your daughter doing?
Right.
How much gear's on my back? Am I moving uphill?
Yeah.
Is my primary route blocked? Is it compromised?
Yeah.
When do I need to go to an alternate route?
It's clear to the team and to Billy how much he needs to learn, but it's just as clear that he's committed to becoming a real survivalist.
It was extremely informative. These guys really know what they're doing, and it was really a pleasure to work with them.
Preparation is constant, right? Never stops.
Yep.
All right.
If it comes down to it, me, my wife, and my daughter are going to survive. There's nobody that's going to stop that.
Ty Scrable sees himself as a proficient survivalist. He's come to the forge to get Jimmy and Mike to assess his readiness, and so far they haven't liked what they've seen. Now he's trying to prove to the two ex-Marines that he's the real deal. He's packing a .22 and a .45 caliber.
Mentally, what happens when you hit something? I don't know if you've ever hit flesh with a round and seen what happens. It's devastating, and it's a mental thing that you have to get through. We found that watermelons usually do encompass the same type of density a human head would. Good. Now slide back. As you pull it back, that round should eject.
Pull it back.
Before a shot is fired, Jimmy spots a problem with Ty's weapon.
There's something wrong with these magazines. There should be plenty of play in this magazine. Your springs are too tight for this little bit of a magazine.
All right, well, we got enough rounds in here to get started, don't we?
Yep.
Going hot. Range is going hot.
Slap it in there. There you go. Now, rack around. There you go.
Okay.
Live fire. Oh.
Misfired.
Misfired. Go ahead and rack it. Okay, now you're going to push your bolt forward. Okay, now you're going to put the weapon back on safety.
Okay.
You're going to drop your magazine.
Finger off the trigger.
Finger off the trigger. Drop the magazine. Now rack that round out. There you go. Okay.
Yeah,
remember what I said about your magazines? That is a magazine feed problem. This weapon just failed you. Now you have a 4-pound paperweight.
So at this point, I wouldn't recommend shooting this weapon anymore until you get it checked out. Because one, it's not safe, and two, if you really need to engage with it, you're going to get killed.
Okay.
So let's look at the
45.
Yeah, look at the other 45. Have you ever shot one before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so it's going to be the same thing. We'll get you a couple of rounds.
All right. Are we ready to go live?
We're ready to go live.
All right.
Okay. Let's take a look at your stance. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. One thing I want to talk to you about now, you don't want your thumbs overlapping because as this slide comes back, it's taking off the top of one of your thumbs.
Okay.
Okay. Very, very painful.
All right. Okay.
That's also going to get the gun very comfortable in this groove of your hand. Last thing is you want to make sure that your weight's slightly forward so this doesn't pop back and bust you open.
Right. There you go. You don't want to be back
Good.
on your heels. Bend your knees a little bit.
There you go.
There you go. That's
Good
good.
posture.
We got 2 rounds in there.
Good.
Good.
There you go.
There you go.
By fire! Safety is off. Engage the target.
Don't
Okay.
anticipate it.
Oh.
Yeah, see, you anticipated it.
Yeah, well, it's not all the
Okay,
way back.
then go ahead.
Put it on safe.
Should I take this out?
Take the magazine out.
Ty's attempt to prove himself is not working out the way he planned.
Get back.
Misfeed.
Geez, both of them are going.
Okay, weapon off. Let's take it down here. Hey, stay back here. He has got to get that round out. Where's the berm, Mike? Yeah.
A bullet is lodged in the chamber, a potentially deadly situation.
He was out with buddies. Maybe that round does come out unglued. It does rip off his hand. You know, that could be fatal. Put it on safe. We're going to have to box the weapon. That weapon is not considered safe. All right. Mike, I'm coming with the box.
Jimmy and Mike advise him on the safest way to transport his weapon.
So what happens here is when you transport that weapon has to be in the back, facing, not into traffic. It has to be facing one of the sides.
It's the safest thing we can do. I can't get it to fire. I can't get it to disassemble. We treat it as a loaded weapon.
Jimmy and Mike have made their assessment. Ty is nowhere near the hardcore prepper he thought he was.
Thank you. I learned a lot, and I still got a lot to learn, obviously.
We all do. We all do, but don't ever stop learning.
2 out of 2 weapons failing. I'm damn glad he came out with us.
Sure made me realize I was more of a camper more than a survivalist.